I'm Aria Schwartz along with Rachel Galligan, and welcome to the Winsidr Show, where it's all about the W. For some teams, the season has come to a close, and for a special 8 teams, the season is just beginning. It's that time of year. The playoffs are set, and there is so much to discuss. So let's dive right in. If this doesn't make you want to dance, do you even dance?
I used to hate this song, and now I appreciate it.
Well, if you like our show, please consider joining the Patreon community, patreon.com/Winsidr. For less than a cup of coffee a month, you can directly show support for the hard work we do covering the W. And don't forget to see our amazing staff's written content over at winsidr.com. That's winsidr.com. And I'm not going to do the plug for playbacks because we're live on playback.tv/Winsidr. Welcome back to the Winsidr Show. We're so glad to have you here for a very, very special live playoff edition of the Winsidr Show. I had to twist Rachel's arm to do this, so glad it worked out.
That's not true. I was about it.
As I said, I'm Aria Schwartz alongside the great Rachel Galligan, who I'm not allowed to call the Hall of Famer anymore, apparently. So I'll just call her Hoff. The playoffs are set. This is like, I'm Jewish, so I don't know what Christmas morning is like, but this is like, Hanukkah morning. I am bubbling. I know for some people, a 40-game season has been long and tumultuous, been hard for the players, hard for the media.
And hard for me.
Hard for Rachel, who's getting married in like 2 days. But I think like the excitement, whether or not it's a 40-game season, a 50-game season, whatever, like the excitement for the W is building and building and building. And I'm like, look, at the beginning of the season, right? We talked about this. Was this going to be somewhat of a boring season? We have Las Vegas Aces, a super team. We have the New York Liberty, a super team. We have the Connecticut Sun, possibly super team Slayers. We had the Washington Mystics, possibly super team Slayers. And then we just had a bunch of other teams that were like, oh, what's going to happen? What's going to whatever. And then we had the Sparks. And I think as the season went on, like we talked about this last year when the Aces won the finals. And we talked about this, throughout the whole season. A lot has to go right for a team to win a championship and to make a deep playoff run. A lot has to go right. Now, Las Vegas Aces are no doubt an amazing team. Not everything's going right for them this season like we saw last year. We're seeing some injuries. We're not going to get into the domestic abuse of Raquana Williams, but there's a key clog on this team missing from the roster. That's something they didn't have to deal with last year. You have Candace Parker missing. They didn't have to deal with injuries and key players missing last year. And personally, I always thought that was a huge element of their run. Whereas you could argue New York hasn't seen anything necessarily go against them this year. Kind of when you think back, Rachel, to the Las Vegas Aces winning it last year and now where we are today, where's your head at?
Who was I? I might have been talking to you about this. Man, I don't know. I don't know how I'm feeling. It's going to be really hard for me to predict that for 2 years in a row, this franchise is going to go on, to win back-to-back championships. We talked about the depth issues last year. Yes, they retooled, they reloaded, they brought back the same pieces, the same core pieces. But given their circumstances right now, I'm really concerned, because of, again, different team, different depth, but they're lacking that same depth. And I think when you go on to win a championship, when you go on to play, in the playoffs, you do need a bit of luck. And granted, I know this team has the talent. They've proven that core, that four-headed monster, if you will, can do it. You still need luck when it comes to that. You need luck being able to stay healthy. You need luck with, some of the calls. You do. You need a strike of luck. And I'm very concerned with Las Vegas and where they're at right now. Would I be that blown away if they did kind of go back to back? Honestly, yeah, I would. And I know that's probably like not a popular take right now. But I don't know. I'm worried about them and the longevity of this entire playoff series.
That's an interesting aspect because like how many people, right? How many analysts, how many people who cover the league are going to look at the standings and go, the Las Vegas Aces, I would be surprised if they win it. And honestly, I would agree. A longer second round series could really test them. I agree. And Jamari, great point. The Sparks were the last team to win back to back in 01 and 02, which is honestly like,
isn't that wild to think about?
That's so wild to think about.
Like, I mean, I was like, man, it really does feel like it's been a long time, but I didn't think it was that long. I mean, I'm not saying I don't think that they can. It's just if Candace Parker was on this team and healthy and being able to function, I'm having a different tone in my voice right now. The way I've seen them kind of not. They've won 4 in a row. Okay,
wait,
great.
Real quick, are you going to be surprised, shocked, excited, or what's your reaction when, after they sweep the sky? Obviously, I'm living in a whatever land. After they sweep the sky, or like a moment before one of the games of the first round or the second round, we find out. Okay, chill. We find out that Candace Parker is healthy and will be playing to some degree in this playoffs. Like,
I would be ecstatic just because I want to see it. I want to see them at their full strength. I want to see this Vegas team, that we saw a month and a half ago, 2 months ago. I want to see that. I don't want to see them, at their current state, which again is really, really damn good. I mean, that's really damn good. It's just, I would give anything to be able to have CP3 back and just another added piece to this team. They're going to need it. They're going to have it. If they go all the way, which I predict they will go all the way to the finals, they're going to need that. And if it does end up being, New York and Vegas in the finals, like that's going to be necessary. It's necessary. At least the way Liberty are playing right now. What'd you say?
I had to ice you for that one. We got some good questions from our listeners. Does Becky put her bench in when, let's say, the Aces are up 10-15 in the middle of the game? I think the playoffs are a different beast than the regular season. And I almost think, and obviously, Rachel, you're much wiser than I, even though you're wrong all the time.
Don't worry. We'll talk about Pick'em at the end of this. Who ended up winning?
Damn it. I thought we gave you a whole episode.
Just so you guys know, we'll let you know who won Pick'em.
Yeah, and it came down to the last game, actually. Literally, the last game of the season decided it. No, but I think when it comes to playoff rest minutes, like you kind of shy away from that almost because you need to keep that hot streak going, whereas there's more of a break in between games. I don't know. That's my take when it comes to the playoffs. Like I'm more inclined to run people into the ground.
I think it's a little more of like you hope you take care of business and you're at the end of the game and you're able to kind of rest some people at that point. I mean, from my experience, not that I've coached in the WNBA, but from my understanding, just as a coach in general, if I put that hat of me on, you've got rotations down to kind of a science right now. You're not going to start altering different rotations too different. I mean, these teams are who they are. They've been playing a certain way for 40 games. They're set in how they do things. They're very meticulous with how they do things. I would not personally expect to see a lot of anything different. That's just me.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with
Chelsea.
That. The Olympic years can really, really hurt a team. We're not going to talk about Steph Dolson, but shout out to Steph Dolson for 5 for 5 from 3 in that one game.
Freaking killed it.
Okay, let's move on to more important, more fun things. It's the playoffs. Let's talk about our first matchup of the WNBA playoffs. My hometown team, the Minnesota Lynx, taking on the Connecticut Sun on Wednesday. A little bit of recap. The Sun won the regular season series 3-1. Lynx won that one game without Nafisa Collier. I forget if it was the second or if it was the first game where they won. They beat New York, then they beat Connecticut, or they beat Connecticut, then New York. Third game.
I think it's the third.
No, I meant I know it was the third game of their series of games of 4. I was saying that I believe it was like the Fee goes down with injury, then they played New York, and then they played Connecticut, or they played Connecticut, then New York. And was a good a good game and an interesting aspect, I think, if you were watching the league, because, and we'll get into this later, like Nafisa Collier, one of the best players, arguably a top 5 player in the league this year. Get to that in a moment. But Fee's down, and somehow, some way, Minnesota finds a way to pull off a victory. Let's start off the bat. Who are some key players from each team for you when it comes to this series?
I mean, listen, we know Fee's going to do what she does. So I'm not going to, I mean, clearly Nafisa Collier, I agree, is in top 5 conversation for MVP. At least she was in mine. That is, I'll put it out there right now. For me, I think it's McBride. You know, McBride has been really steady her entire career. It's actually really impressive. Go back and look at the numbers. Thank you everybody with Dorka. I'm a huge Dorka stan. Amazing. So excited for the year that she's had. But I'm going to go with McBride just because, again, McBride's ability to elevate this team in key moments. I almost feel like she's taken a step forward in her career this year. You know, just the moments where they needed a bucket and they needed that secondary option that wasn't going to be ran through Fee. McBride has been able to do it. McBride's got to be able to knock down shots. She's got to be able to give them, 15, 16 a game, go off for maybe a 20 pointers. I mean, whatever that looks like. But I do think Kayla McBride for the Lynx is just kind of that X factor. When she goes and you have Fee going and everybody else has been pretty steady across the board, including Dorka. I think that the Lynx are really good. I think I'm going to mix it up here for the Sun because I know you have a different one than me. I'm going to say Natisha Heidemann. I don't want to say it feels like it's been a down year for Heidemann, but we all know that like Heidemann can get hot and she can go off in key moments and she can come in and, hit 3 to 4 threes in a game. And I think Heidemann, we know that AT is going to be doing her thing. Bonner's going to have a good game. We also know Bonner's going to go, 3 for 17 win one of these matchups. So who's going to be that added element that's given them, an extra, 8 to 12 points a game. And I think Heidemann's proven time and time again during her career. I mean, at this point, she's a vet. She can stretch the floor, which I think the Lynx struggle to defend at times. I don't know. I think Heidemann can have a really big series here. What about you?
I'm not going to lie. The one game I was live to this year, took Gus to his first game, Lynx son. While I'm there, run into Natisha Heidemann's sister-in-law and nephew, start chatting with her. She said a similar thing. She said it's been a down year after an amazing overseas season in Israel, winning a championship. Oh, sorry, did not win a championship. Lost. She was on Liz Cambazian's team. Lost to Shakira Austin and Alicia Clark. Having a down year, shooting bad. I've seen some pickup late in the season, which gets me excited because I've been saying this for years that I think she is kind of been the missing element of their offense when it comes to playoff time. Jazz Thomas is a great player, no shade to her, but end of the day, they need to be making more buckets. And Jazz Thomas will disappear for games. Jazz Thomas will disappear for periods of time offensively. She's not going to disappear defensively, but offensively, she just goes MIA. Yes, she's going to have one good game. Natisha Heidemann is that it player. I agree with your take on it. For me, it's Bonner because I look at this Connecticut Sun team and ever since, look, with Carrington here and there, and with Bree Jones down, it can't just be all Alyssa Thomas. Somebody needs to make baskets for Alyssa Thomas to get those assists. I think Becca Allen's been amazing. Tip Hayes has been amazing. We've seen a lot of growth from this team throughout the season, but at the end of the day, the playoffs are superstar time. And the superstars of this team are AT and Bonner. And if we can see them have another, 30 and 30 night or something crazy like that, it's going to be a wild run for this Connecticut Sun team. For me, how do the Lynx win? I think somebody pointed it out earlier. It's about depth with points. They don't need Fee to score 50. We know Fee's going to drop like 20, 13, 8 or 3. Like she's going to stuff the stat sheets in a classic Fee way. But they need even effort from bench scoring. When they won that game, it's because they were able to get bench scoring. Milic needs more minutes. I've been saying this all year. I'm just going to say it. Ari Chambers, love you. Her and I were tweeting about Coach of the Year this year. Cheryl Reeve got brought up. And one of the things that, maybe this shouldn't be a knock against someone winning Coach of the Year. Me personally, I think her rotations hurt the team better than they serve the team. And so that was a huge issue for me. And obviously Milic minutes, Dorka minutes, and yes, Chelsea, Bridget Carlton minutes were the things that held this team back. I think the team is like, Mitchell might have the stat, undefeated this year when Bridget Carlton scores or plays like 15 plus minutes or something crazy like that.
That's
so,
impressive.
Yeah, well, it's not like the Dorka starting step, but whatever. Rachel, keys for the Lynx to win.
They've got to take care of the basketball. I think if Connecticut's able to, get out and play in transition and AT's, going downhill and Lynx are on their heels and they're having to they're getting to the free throw line. It's going to be a long night. So they've got to take care of the basketball. And I think they've got to throw the first punch. And I'm going to do this from the point of like, if I was broadcasting a game and I'm like literally giving you my bullet point keys. So that's fine. Throw the first punch. They've got to come out of the gate like guns a-blazing. They've got to make a statement in those first 4 to 5 minutes of game one. And obviously it's going to be physical. It's going to be, a gritty game. It's going to be tough. You've got to win those toughness points. So what are the toughness points? A 50-50 ball, so loose balls, deflections. You've got to win the paint. You've got to be able to get the ball inside. You got to get feet of her spots. You've got to win the rebounding battle. I mean, all those types of areas of the floor and rebounding type things that we know this Connecticut team does so well, again, because of AT largely. They've got to be the aggressor at. They've got to get to the free throw line. And again, they can't be reactive to the way Connecticut is playing. They've got to come out of the gate swinging. And if they don't win game one, I don't see it happening.
I agree. The Lynx have won one playoff game since their last championship. I saw somebody.
Alyssa Thomas had a triple-double in each of the last 2 meetings.
Yeah.
But that's you've got to find a way to combat that. I mean, even you don't have to stop triple doubles, but you've got to find a way to combat that again when she's being an aggressor like that. And getting deep into the paint, getting to the free throw line, distributing the way she does, they've got to have somebody that can just kind of match her, at least at that level of intensity.
Oh,
which clearly
100%.
They've struggled to do.
Well, I was going to say, somebody mentioned Aerial Powers, and I think, first of all, Powers is a reason why I couldn't have Reeve as Coach of the Year. Because realistically, you look at me, obviously, it was you, Amani. I wasn't going to throw you under the bus. No, but as much shade as I like to throw towards Powers or whatever, joke around, end of the day, she is a high volume scorer. Yes, she can have bad percentages at times. Yes, she happens to, shoot her ill-advised timed air balls. But end of the day, you look at the win, I think she had 15 points. You look at a lot of games when you give her enough minutes in spurts. And while I agree with playing her in spurts is the way to go, I just think end of the day, Aerial Powers is one of those players that can provide scoring, and this team's going to need to score. When you play Connecticut, they're going to put you into a scoring drought at some point, and you need a way out of it. And you do that by getting points, either by getting to the line, like you're saying, or by making shots. How did the Sun win? Suffocating D, let AT cook. Somebody else hit some shots.
Do what they do.
Play
their brand. If they play their brand of basketball and they are who they are, they're in a good spot. I think the hindrance is on the Lynx to elevate their game and just to try and make Connecticut a little bit uncomfortable, take them out of their physicality, their toughness, their aggressor type of, kind of vibe that they bring to the floor. And if they can, it can get interesting. All right, prediction.
Yeah.
What do you?
No.
We're doing it at the
predictions
end.
At the end.
Okay, I digress.
Rachel always likes to skip around, and I'm a scheduled, All right, Aces versus the Sky, also on Wednesday. Regular season, a sweep. Just brooms out, talking. Actually, no, the Sky didn't. Did the Sky sweep in the finals? I just keep thinking of the door. How the Sky brought the door to the parade. It lives in my head, rent free. I don't know what jersey. Oh no, that is a. I don't even know what you're talking about. Oh, that Lindsay Whalen jersey. On the Sun. Aces, Sky. I mean, key players for me is Marina and Jackie Young, because I feel like the only way the Sky can win truly is if they just are scoring buttloads. Obviously Clea Copper, fine, all that jazz. But can they score? And Jackie Young is an elite perimeter defender. So yeah, that's what it comes down to for me. What about you? Who are your key players?
I agree with the Marina take. I think if Marina can get hot and get going, but also I think it's just as much Courtney Williams too. Everybody, anyone who can contribute anything, I think is a key player for Chicago. I mean, it's hard for me to pinpoint one person. I mean, obviously Copper makes the most sense. I guess if I had to really, really think about it, if Courtney Williams could elevate her level of play and put up some big time numbers, if she's up there scoring, like she was a few years ago, up in 22, 24.
She dropped a triple double the other day, Rachel.
Okay, I'm talking about if,
no, I know.
If she can go crazy in this series and average 22 or something like that, and Marina's knocking down some shots and Copper's doing what she's doing, okay, but they need that third. They need that third big time score, in my opinion, that I don't think that we've seen all year long.
Yeah.
For Aces, Chelsea Gray. Just pick, I was rolling the dice in my head, which one do I want to say? I'm going to say Chelsea Gray. I think she's going to pick Chicago apart, personally.
Yeah, I think that's the problem for me is Chicago defensively. I just don't know how they're going to keep up unless Vegas is having a shooting. I'm sorry, Elizabeth Williams, you ain't getting diddly against Asia. But wear them down. That's how the Sky win, right? The Aces win by being themselves. The Sky win by wearing them down, running it. Clea Copper just Clea Copper is going to come out of this series looking like a boxer coming out of a 15-round bout, right? She's just too physical in the paint. She's not going to back down. She's going to put the team on her back. I just don't know how she
I mean, at the end of the day, Chicago doesn't have anyone. I mean, again, you're just going player to player, toe to toe. The only one that, in my opinion, can be in the conversations with the Las Vegas Aces is Clea Copper. And so, thus, here we are. I mean, like you said, Chicago's got to come out and everyone's got to be playing at their peak basketball. You've got to be hitting shots. You've got to be knocking down threes. You've got to be able to get runouts. And if they can, they've got to push this to 3 games and try and wear Vegas down as much as they possibly can, which is only going to end up more beneficial for more teams down the stretch. But if they can wear Vegas down, and maybe push it to 3, if they can steal one, if they can steal that game 2 or something like that, that's the only way they have a chance. But I don't see it going to 3.
Yeah, I have to agree.
Oh yeah. Okay. A couple of points. We were talking about Connecticut Sun. Rebecca Allen went out. When did she go out? Was it the last game?
Oh, is Becca Allen hurt? No, Alana Smith is hurt with Chicago.
Not having Allen will be an issue. She's played well against the Sun all year. So what are we talking about Allen for? Is Allen hurt? Hold on. And then Alana Smith for Chicago left the game on Sunday with an ankle injury. Lindsay Allen. Okay. I'm sorry. I was getting confused. Alana Smith, that hurt Chicago even more. She's been really steady for them all year long. Now we'll see. Hopefully that's something that can be kind of, salvaged in a couple days rest and she's good. But there without her, that's again just another unfortunate. At least made the playoffs, right? At least in the playoffs, because Lord knows they didn't need to be in the lottery. Because what?
Yeah. No, it's sad, but it's funny, but it's awesome just because they made the playoffs, right? Good for them. They have something to build off of. They signed
But at
Clea
the
Copper
same
to an
time,
extension.
But yes, and that's the news here. That is the biggest news out of any of this. But you know what? Sometimes when you get to a playoff and you're playing with house money and a team like Chicago that they're not going to roll over. They've got that kind of chip to them. They've got that grit to them. They've got that underdog mentality. They've done it all year long. I mean, even to the point where how the hell do they even make it to the playoffs? I mean, granted, it was barely, but they have that kind of swagger and edge to them because they're led by Courtney Williams and Clea Copper that they are playing with house money. I mean, is it completely off the table that something crazy happens here? I mean, it is the playoffs. So I sound like I'm kind of like pushing it under the rug, but maybe I should check myself a little bit. I don't know. I mean, a team like that with that type of mentality to themselves and that kind of we have nothing to lose is dangerous.
Yeah. No, I mean, there's some phrase of any sport, a sky guy with his back against the wall is the most feared animal or whatever. No, I mean, I completely agree. You have players who have playoff success in Clea Copper, a finals MVP. Courtney Williams has been to the finals, has made deep playoff runs multiple times in her career. Marina wanting to get some playoff experience, and then just sprinkle in some other players in there. And Alana Smith has some experience too. But yeah, I think it's just such an uphill battle.
Well, and again, Vegas is not Vegas. The players and the teams of this league do not look at Vegas the same way that they did 2 months ago. Even a month ago. I mean, Vegas seems more human now. And I'm not saying they're not great, but they seem a little more not down to earth. They're a little more just they're not indestructible.
Okay, but answer me this. And this is actually a really interesting, maybe just for me, question. Which is better, right? Because we always talk about the Aces of recent, the Storm of recent, the Lynx, the Sparks, always getting the opponent's best game because of who they are. And so I ask you the question of is it better that the opponents in their mind are they're not the Aces of 2 months ago? Or is it better that they think of them still in that highfaluticity?
I would say it's probably, if I'm Chicago, it's a good combination of both. You're still going to get their best effort because this is the number one seed. But then you also know that they're not at 100%. So well, shit, what do we have to lose? Why don't we go out there and just do our thing and see if we can get hot and have a little bit of an edge to us and see what we can do. I think it's a good combination for Chicago to walk into, actually. The more I talk it out.
But that's what happens in the playoffs, right, Rachel? We talk it out for 30 minutes.
We know something crazy is going to happen at some point. So, all right, let's move on.
Moving on. Arguably, the most intriguing, the most highly anticipated of the first round matchups. Now, I think, me personally, this is one of two matchups that I think could go to a worse seeded team. And it's Mystics Liberty. Friday, they split the series 2-2. Little interesting tidbit. The Mystics come into the season, first game of the season, beat the New York Liberty. The Mystics have a whole middle of the season that I think they would be fine forgetting, and I'm fine forgetting. And then they end the season on a victory over the Liberty. For me, the key players, as Pickle comes to join the party, the key players are, I'm going to cheat here, right? And pick Elena Deladon and Tasha Cloud for the Mystics, because I think it takes Deladon being there for them to have a chance. And it takes Natasha Cloud facilitating, leading, and scoring for them to actually win. And then for New York, I think it's Stewie. A little bit of an interesting tidbit. In the two Liberty losses against the Mystics, Stewie had a combined just 20 points. I think she scored 20 plus individually in those two other games that they won. So for me, I'm looking at Stewie because I think when it comes to the Liberty, it kind of starts and ends with Stewie this season. What about you?
Yeah, I agree with that. But I would say I think we are going to see a really big series from Sabrina. And I think JJ is probably my X factor in this matchup in particular, because I think they need JJ on the glass. They need to be able to have somebody that they can run the ball through a little bit more down in the paint at times. God, I don't know, man. When it comes to the Mystics, I agree. I mean, it's EDD and Cloud. I think you hit the nail on the head. I just don't feel as encouraged as you do about this being like an interesting matchup. I think if anything, if I'm New York, this sounds kind of bad, but like I'm a little bit relieved. Like sometimes when you're on a really long win streak, you start to get this pressure that builds up. And they had won what, like 8 in a row?
I think it was 8 or 9.
I think it was 8. They had won 8 in a row before that game against Washington the other day. And I think sometimes, like, if that gets stretched out too far and then you're doing that into the playoffs, like you kind of have this like subconscious weight on your shoulders. I think it was actually a good thing that New York lost that game. Not because, I mean, look, I mean, they threw an alley-oop to Sykes and she hits a game winner. It was a phenomenal game, well played by both teams. It was going to take a great effort from the Mystics to do that. That's great. I just don't see them winning against New York the way New York has played this last month and a half. I actually think Washington will really struggle in this series, in my opinion. But if they're gonna be successful, they have to have EDD and Cloud clicking like they do. I agree with you.
I think honestly, even more so, I'm gonna redact my EDD and Cloud because you agreed with me, and I'm like, I can't do that. No, I'm just gonna say health. Like I don't even care. Like I fully, and this is crazy. And I know Matt thinks I'm crazy, and other WNBA fans think I'm crazy. Somebody stop me. Shout out to that fan who stopped me at an event I was photographing recently and was like, hey, I know your voice from the pod. You made my day. But honestly, like the Mystics, if healthy, I think in the playoffs can run it. I have zero faith in them too. I'm not saying this from a point of faith, right? Like faith is I'm jumping off the ledge backwards, eyes closed, and they're going to catch me. They're not catching me. But if I'm sitting there watching the game, and I look at these rosters from top to bottom, like they have playoff depth. They have someone who can match up with the bigs. They have multiple players who can do things to Steph Dolson and Jonquel Jones and Nira Sabali that they don't like. They can, if they can defend the 3-point line, this is going to be a scary matchup for the Liberty. And this is exactly who the Liberty did not want to play. And I'll also say this. Jamari brought up an interesting point. They played 4 games. The Mystics won 2 of them. One of those games was a very close game where the Mystics looked like they were poised to win it until I believe it was not just Austin, but I think also either Atkins and Cloud went down in that game too. And then you're talking about 2-3 of your starters actually playing against the Liberty. Fine. They end up losing by 10 or 11 or 15. Fine. But like, I think this, like, look, are they going to win it? You'll have to wait till the end of the episode to hear my predictions. But I think we're definitely talking 3-game series. That's my take.
It's again, but then I come back, I say my thing, and then I listen to your thing. And then I come back and want to change my thing because I have to remind myself it's playoff basketball. And I've been telling myself all year long, oh man, just wait for Washington to hit their stride. Watch, this team could go off at any moment, and be able to go compete. And they haven't done it. They haven't done it. And that's why I'm sitting here going, I have no faith. They have the talent. They have the experience. This is a championship team skeleton of what they were whenever the hell it was, however many years ago they won. Is it possible that moment that I've been waiting for all season long happens now? I guess it's not out of the equation, but I'm going to go differently. I think they'll get swept.
Wow. and classic Rachel refuses to wait until what we had mutually agreed upon. Whatever.
Maybe I'll change my mind by the time we
get maybe. Okay. No, I mean, look, I think it's very funny because if you're the Liberty, right, you don't want to play like you played in the beginning of the year and you don't want to play like how you ended the season. And the Mystics are the exact opposite. They don't want to play like the middle, right? Like the Liberty were amazing in the middle. The Mystics ended well and started well.
I will give it to you, though. I mean, if I'm New York, this is not who I want to see.
Yeah.
I mean, you're exactly right with that, especially coming off that last loss. this out of all the ones we've talked about so far is the most interesting to me, because you are kind of like, you're really talking about two teams that have some heavy hitters and MVP caliber, talent on their teams. Like, if Washington was going to have that moment, which again, I've kind of given up faith that they will at this point, if it can happen now, I would be ecstatic. That would be so awesome to see. And I would be really excited to, see that team finally hit a stride that I thought they could do all year long. But yeah, I don't know. At least we know that the Liberty are kind of sitting there kind of like, damn, that's a tough draw for a team that's been playing so damn well right now and was that close to being the number one seed. They draw the Mystics. That's tough.
I gotta say, like, if you're New York, you don't want to, but you want to play them, right? Like, you want to get your challenges out of the way. You want to prove yourself early to a degree, in my opinion. But I just think it has all the makings of a historic, WNBA playoff matchup.
You're right. I think, how does it happen? What were some points that you had brought up? You talked about the 3-point line, right? Liberty've got to be successful out there. I think Stewie and Sabrina, Stewie's got to be the arguably MVP that she could potentially be. I think in order for the Mystics to do it, my God, they've got to defend the 3-point line. Like, and you can't have breakdowns. You can't go under Sabrina. Even if she's 5 feet off the 3-point line. It amazes me how many teams still have that breakdown against someone like Sabrina Ionescu at this point of the season. But being able to defend the 3-point line, take care of the basketball, and if they can keep the rebounding numbers relatively reasonably close, and let's be honest, if they can get to the free throw line, I mean, Washington's got to get to the free throw line if they're going to be successful.
Here's the thing,
and that Washington means ED's got to get calls.
EDD needs to get calls, and multiple players on their team need to get calls. But let's talk about the keys for Washington to win is going to be shooting down, ironically, stopping Sabrina from 3, containing Stewie to an element, right? And not letting Marine go off from 3. And who do they have? Atkins, Cloud, and Sykes. I think that's a recipe to keep the series close at worst case. We can get into it for many, many more episodes. The last series of the playoffs. Oh, that's a great call. All rookie team. Mm-hmm. All right. Wings versus the Dream. The other team that I feel like could possibly have an upset in terms of seeding is on Friday. I think Friday games are going to be a little bit more entertaining than the Wednesday games because, of course, the WNBA wants to schedule games on one of the most holy of all Jewish holidays. But in the regular season, the Dallas Wings swept the series 3-0. And I'm going to start off in a different way with this series, Rachel.
Oof.
We'll get to key players. We'll get to keys to winning. I'm curious for you, seeding-wise, there's obviously a big difference between Vegas sweeping Chicago through the regular season and the Wings sweeping the Dream. Seeding-wise, just flat out.
Right.
But we look at this, do you think it's beneficial or detrimental for the Wings that they swept them? Because we always talk about it's really hard to beat a team 4 times, 5 times in a row, even if it's not back-to-back-to-back games.
I feel like it's a different ball game when you get to the playoffs. I feel like that kind of in my mind goes out the window.
Okay.
If we're talking about regular season, okay. If we're talking about, in a series, in the playoffs, I think when you're talking about, the last 4 months or however long it's been, for me, I don't put a lot of thought into that. That's just me personally. Now, some might say, oh, we beat them 3 times, whatever. But you already beat them 3 times. That's the famous quote. It's hard to beat a team 3 times. Shit, might as well make it 4. Might as well make it 5.
Yeah, I mean that's totally fair, right? If you're just spanking them, keep spanking them.
I do think this will be interesting. I think Dream could make this one interesting.
I agree with you. I very much agree with you.
I think that this team has continued to grow. They've continued to make the right strides. Do I think that they are where they want to be as a franchise. Obviously not. But I do think that my thing is with Dallas is they can beat themselves. And I think this is a team that really struggles with referees and they struggles with calls, and they get so wrapped up in whatever calls are that it takes them out of it. We've seen it in how many Dallas Wings games this season. Like, if you can kind of get in their heads a little bit and get them frustrated, and they're talking to themselves, they're talking to the refs, everybody's freaking out. Like, Dallas really struggles with that, in my opinion. That's one of my biggest knocks on this team is, like, I get it. Their WNBA referees are terrible. You know, they're bad. There's been some really bad moments, but like, get back, go defend, you know, and I don't see Atlanta doing that. You know, this is a team that just wants to go play hard, you know, and they're happy to be in this situation for the first time since 2018, you know, and they're hungry and they're ready to take those next steps. And I could see Dallas kind of, you know, getting in their own heads a little bit too much, and Atlanta just playing so hard and putting their head down and doing the work that I could see them stealing a game.
Can I just say that if Dallas had Atlanta's mental aspect of the game, the Dallas Wings would not be a $10 bet to make $1,000. They would not be arguing. We would not be arguing about whether or not they're a dark horse contender and things like that. I think it's that mentality that's holding them back. And to your Burner's point, Arike can, like Bonner and Jewell. Wow. Okay, throw in the all-time scoring single season record holder who played like 10 more games than the other player. Throwing him in there, that's fine. That's a choice. Whatever. No, we can get into that later. No, but I agree where I think the reason why, and if you saw me on Twitter today arguing for YLT's Coach of the Year, the reason why I said that and I picked her was because while Arike has not gotten there fully yet, I have seen a lot of growth from her. So for me, it's Arike. Can she not shoot 9 for 20? Can she not do those classic shots that we're all sitting there like, why are you taking that? That just like pull. And the problem with those shots is no longer it's a bad shot at a bad time. It's you can see the rest of the team pissed off about it, because I think we're at a point where the rest of the team knows. The rest of the team knows how deflating that play is and how selfish of a play that is. And the rest of the team is starting to get sick of it. I don't think the teammates, at least body language wise, are still giving Arike that leniency. And then Ryan Howard, like if Atlanta's going to win, Ryan Howard just needs to have a big series.
It's got to be Cheyenne Parker for me. She's been so good all year long. And I agree, Kevin, this is a really bad draw for the Dream, especially when you look at Dallas and what they can do on the interior with McCowan and Brown. I mean, for Dallas, they've got to completely dominate. They've got to manhandle Atlanta in the paint. Paint points, rebounding, second chance opportunities. And there's a lot on Parker's shoulders in terms of being able to be someone that they can throw the ball to, and she's not neutralized by one of those other players. And, you know, they can still get those paint touches that are being kicked out for to Ryan Howard in motion and things like that, that I think that, we've seen Atlanta like have success with, is being able to run the ball through Cheyenne Parker and get her touches down low. Now, can she do that against them? We're going to see. It's going to be a really, really, really tough matchup for her and for Atlanta across the board. But, I mean, it is. I agree, Kevin. That's a bad draw.
Yeah. But that said, it's funny, Kevin, because you saying that, this is why I love the debates, the different perspectives, the different opinions when it comes to the W, because I think so often people kind of just like fall in line. Oh, this person said that. That sounds right. Cool.
That's true.
I didn't think about that aspect of this series until you mentioned that. Cheyenne's been great, but to go up against, I mean, honestly.
Now Cheyenne can stretch it. Like McCowan and Kalani Brown don't want to come out of the paint. Now Cheyenne she's not the same. She can stretch the floor and make them uncomfortable in certain scenarios. And that's what they're going to have to do. They're going to have to be able to open up the interior a little bit.
But that's why Natasha Howard has been the third threat. Yeah. That's why Tierra and Kalani have been there's too much skill going on in Dallas, and they do a great job of finding the hot hand when it's needed.
And adjusting their tempo. Sometimes they'll slow it down and play a little more in the half court. Again, for players like McCowan and Kalani and, being able to throw the ball inside. But I agree, Atlanta, they've got to be able to push the pace. It's got to become a track meet. Monique Billings has got to be running the floor. You've got to have Nas running the floor. I mean, it's got to be an absolute just getting up and down the floor. Ryan being able to get open threes in transition. It'll be interesting. I don't know.
I know who I think wins, but I do think that even though they got swept, I think besides the Mystics maybe upsetting the Liberty, this is the other series that I'm looking at. And yes, it would be total Cheryl Reeve to go and sweep Connecticut and stick a middle finger to me. But that's just where my mind is at. I want to do a quick shout out to, the regular season's over. Winsidr, we've had an amazing staff this year. I'm not going to run down everybody's name. You know who you are. But I want to give a very, very special shout out to kind of the unsung heroes. Not you, Rachel. You get talked about enough now. Our editing team and our social team, who just does so much work to make things work, I guess because I stink at talking. They've just been so amazing this season. I think I speak for myself as someone who's obviously been very close to Winsidr from its inception, but like to see our growth and to see what our editing team and our social team, yes, and our graphics have been doing this year, I think is next level. And I'm proud to say I work with them. A few other things we want to talk about. So most importantly, I would say, obviously, Danny, McKenna, and Jasmine, and Cara and Ace, and Julie, and I'm blanking on somebody, and I'm going to feel horrible. So I apologize. But Jasmine has just been doing so much amazing work and a really cool idea that we're going to be doing for the first time this year with some cool giveaways of a Winsidr t-shirt and possibly one of these cool t-shirts is we're going to be doing a WNBA playoffs bracket challenge. We're going to be publishing it, I believe, tomorrow, possibly publishing it on Wednesday. But everything's basically set up. You'll just make your picks, and then you just have to pick the final score of the finals game as the tiebreaker, because we don't, obviously it's a little bit different than the NCAA bracket. And make sure you check out, I'll post it again, our affiliate links right here. You buy stuff from them, we get a percentage, and it helps us allow what we do to do what we do. MVP talk real quick. Rachel, let's just do it. Just a brief, dip our toes in it.
I'm just distracted by the chat right now. They're killing me right now. I love it. It's freaking great. Okay, the MVP, we're doing it.
MVP talk. Let's just do it. It might end with Rachel and I hating each other and the podcast ending forever. Alyssa Thomas, Brianna Stewart, Asia Wilson. We don't need to talk about Nafisa Collier. She was on my top 5 list. Yes. We don't need to talk about Satu Sabli. She was on my top 5 list. Yes. They weren't in actual running for the MVP. And honestly, so for those who don't know, when you are a voter, humble brag, Rachel and I are voters. When you're a voter, you have to rank them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you get different points based on that. Personally, I think the 4 and 5 are kind of pointless, but whatever. It's cool. Give them a pat on the back, motivation for next year. Rachel, what was your order? Before you get into why, just tell me your order, and I'll tell you my order.
Brianna Stewart, Asia Wilson, Alyssa Thomas, Nafisa Collier, Nneka Ogwumike.
I totally forgot.
I know totally you did. I'm really annoyed with you, but okay.
I totally forgot. Yeah, Rachel went with Nneka. Nneka had MVP caliber points. Cool. They didn't make the playoffs. Couldn't make my list. Sorry. No, I know for a second I thought when you went Fee 4 that you did Satu 5, and I was like, oh, well, at least we got 2 in the same position.
I didn't do it. Nope.
Wait, so you went Stewie 1, Asia 2. Okay, so we didn't even we're ships in the night. I went Alyssa Thomas 1, Brianna Stewart 2, and Asia Wilson 3. And then Fee, and then, oh my God, Rachel, your burner account is trying to get banned. You know I can ban you, right? So for me, it was pretty simple in the sense of like, if I was going to say it in a couple sentences, which I'm never good at saying anything in a couple sentences. If I was going to say it, I would say Alyssa Thomas, almost in the words of Natasha Cloud. Like, what Alyssa Thomas has been doing this season has never been done before. She had 6 triple doubles this year, or 6 triple doubles this year, 9 on her career, I think, or 8 on her career. I think it's 9. Just an insane season. Nobody has ever done that, right? Like, she had 9 triple doubles. I think there's been like 22 triple doubles in the league's career. She essentially has half the league's triple doubles, and she did a majority of them in one season. What she is doing has never been done. I don't think it will ever be done again. And I just think, like, we too often don't give, I don't want to say the respect, but MVP nods and attention don't go to guards, because often they're required to facilitate more than bigs are. Often it doesn't go to guards because I think inherently they look worse on defense, because they often get burned on a bucket. They often get a shot in their face. They often, aren't getting a eye-grabbing highlight reel block in the paint. That's what the bigs do. So I think when Alyssa Thomas stepped in this year and started doing things that not only elite bigs in this league are doing, but also doing things that the best guards in this league are doing, it kind of it didn't compute. It's like trying to tell AI to do something it can't do. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't compute. And so for me, like, when you're doing something positive that doesn't compute at that level, I think for me, the hardest part was when A'ja Wilson dropped 53, and sitting there and looking at what her and Stewie are doing and going, well, Stewie's stats are slightly better. And I think Stewie's roster, while it's deeper, isn't as top heavy. So that's my 3-minute, 1 sentence of why I picked Alyssa Thomas.
I mean, we literally, what did we do the entire last week? Like, sat down and went back and forth and analyzed and talked and like went crazy. One day I even got out a piece of paper and just started for 2 hours was like,
she went Rain Man,
and, like, completely like analyzing all this stuff. And I looked like a crazy person, and I was just going down all these numbers and from all 3. Because in my mind, it was like, I had no idea what I was going to do. I could not figure it out. And I was talking to all sorts of people that I really respect and asking people's opinions. And we were just going back and forth. And legitimately, I finally like calmed down and was like, there is a valid and very real, and 100% any 3 of those players could win MVP. And I would be like, absolutely, I agree. Like, it was excruciating to try and pick one for myself. So it's not like I'm sitting here and I'm like, oh, they shouldn't get it. They shouldn't get it. Like, I can switch from minute to minute as to who I think should have this award. And so ultimately for me, I had to step back. And again, we talk about this. It's in any league. It's in any, in any pro league. Like what defines MVP, and what does MVP mean for you? Should the league define what those parameters are, or do you leave that up to the individual voter? And Rebecca Lobo put something out there that was like, like whatever. So, like, however the voters vote, like, don't take it as a knock against the others. It's like all of these people are deserving. And I was like, okay, let me calm down and like let me really think in my mind, what does MVP mean to me? I was for a long time on the A'ja Wilson train, and then I was on the Alyssa Thomas train, and then at like the 11th hour, I switched to the Brianna Stewart train. I think, man, it's so hard.
Was this what convinced you?
Yeah, well, when they sent me the reward, the media box to try and persuade our votes, and it was
definitely the doll.
A giant pizza box. Let me show you guys.
Shout out to the New York Liberty, because this was actually a really cool custom pizza box.
This is what did it.
Yeah. So you weren't upset that there was no pizza? Well,
I'll just put any pizza that I order in there.
That would be great. Actually, I would say this. There's no oil stain. Oh, yeah.
Connecticut sent one little keychain. New York was really cool. I was really impressed with them.
New York's was cool. Minnesota's was cool also. And
for me.
Minnesota's was cool also. They gave some custom cards. We're actually going to give away a couple of those. The Stu York MVP, we're going to give one of those away. Because why not? Yeah, right, fine. Rachel, no one respects your vote. Like whatever. You gave into a bribe.
If somebody really wants to know my reasoning, just DM me and I will go through my thought process. But I went for it.
I'll tell you don't want to know her reasoning because unless you want to see a bunch of like chicken scratch on a napkin from Topgolf. Okay. So, random other things that I want to mention.
Here for the next 30 minutes if I try.
Yeah, right. We will be revealing our picks on a different show, but that would take forever, so we'll do that on a different one. But I am curious for you, Rachel. I know like you and I work together for our picks. Obviously, a lot of people think like, oh, they're teaming up. No, like we did not end up with the same picks as we showed you or as we told you with MVPs.
I don't think we've ever submitted the same picks ever.
No, I think that we see eye to eye on a lot of stuff, but then there's some stuff where we just veer slightly apart.
We were very different on Coach of the Year as well.
Very different on Coach of the Year. But I'm curious for you, what was the hardest of the awards? And before you answer that, you had mentioned something that I want to bring up real quick. You had said Rebecca Lobo's comment about, don't be upset. It's not a knock answer. I think for a very long time, and while justified in some cases, right, there was, okay, Rachel's burner. There was a period of time where we would see the votes come in and you would see a couple of votes in the yearly awards and think to yourself, who the hell did that vote? That is a ridiculous vote. And I think a lot of animosity came from that. Now, yes, there were sometimes individual cases where it looked bad. Honestly, if you ask me, I think it's because those were people who are hired by the teams. And when you're hired by the team and you're given a vote, it's kind of, I would assume, implied, nudge, nudge, hint, hint, wink, wink, to give some reciprocity or whatever to that team. Maybe that's not, I think that's where some of those votes came from. And yes, obviously, sometimes people just didn't pay attention. They were grandfathered in on voting and they just threw some things out there. But I just think that we, as never going to happen because it's WNBA Twitter, but we need to be respectful of each other and understand that, like, this has been a historic season. We've seen so many records be broken. There's so many different ways of logic. Like, even for instance, MVP Defensive Player of the Year. I think you can make a case for Asia. You can make a case for AT. And I think some people would look at it and say, I voted for one player for MVP, so I'll vote for the other for Defensive Player. There's some people who will view it as individual awards. They're not connected at all. And so there's so many different ways to it that I think we just need to sit here and go, okay, I respect that. I would like to give the benefit of the doubt that you put in the time, the thought process to vote, and I'll respect.
That's all I ask for, right? Like, just do your homework, actually watch the league, and do some studying and really put some thought into it. That's all I care about.
Yes. All right. So hardest one to pick for you.
Second team all defense. I know I can't say that.
Well, I was going to say that the teams in general.
The teams in general are really hard. Actually, I don't struggle with it didn't feel as hard this year for the first team all WNBA, first team all defense. Didn't feel as hard. It was the second team all defense that I was like, I don't know what to do with this. But for me, I mean, MVP was brutal. That was absolutely brutal. I stressed about it way longer than any other award. And I would say Coach of the Year. I think that you could make an argument, but there was not a clear winner this year for me. I don't think there was a clear winner like across the board. I think you could look in the past and be like, man, it was very obvious James Wade, or whoever. I think that there's been, and it came down to the wire. I mean, if LA made the playoffs, I thought there was a really good argument for Kurt Miller. And I was ready to start thinking that way a little bit. But I didn't think that there was a very crystal clear Coach of the Year. Like there was at least 3 to 4 names with legitimate that deserve to be in that conversation. And yeah, Cheryl Reeve is definitely one of them, in my opinion. I mean, LT, I thought it Cheryl Reeve, LT, Sandy, and who am I missing? Becky.
We got into it on that one.
Any of those 4, like now that I feel like New York got second, like Sandy.
No,
how do you
did you say Steph White? Steph White.
Oh, yeah, Steph, Sandy, whatever. You know what I'm talking about. Okay, yeah. Sandy, Steph, LT, and Reeve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For me, and like I put this out there, I think.
And I went Steph White.
I went LT. I just think like Reeve wasn't in the convo because you start 0-6 like that. To me, that's like getting an F in your first class. You know what I mean? Like your first homework assignment, and then like still being like a C average student, and then wanting like the valedictorian award.
This is why I think that the Reeve thing deserved conversation, was because that team, like statistically, by the numbers, by the analytics, was way worse than they actually are.
That's fair. That's fair.
Like that team should have probably been a lottery team. Seriously. But they overachieved this year. We can all agree that they overachieved. They clicked really well. They played really well. They drafted really well. The rookies.
I wouldn't say they played really well. They won some close games.
I think they played as well as this team, was going to be able to. I mean, Jesus, I had no idea Minnesota was going to have the year that they had. I was like just writing them off left and right at the beginning of the season. Fully guilty. I am totally one of those people that had no faith in this team this year. So I do think that the way that Shale Reeve coached this team this year and brought them together, and the product on the floor that we saw night in and night out, especially late in the season, that's I really respect it. She did a really good job.
Yeah. So, a few other things I want to just drop on you real quick. The Winsidr Award, the first ever Winsidr Award. I will be buying a trophy. We'll be giving it to a player. There's going to be the Winsidr Award. It's going to be bigger than bigger or smaller than Kelsey Plum's trophy. Haven't decided which one yet. I really got to get an order in once we figure out who wins. And I think the only other topic that needs to be brought up, just for some laughs.
Can we explain what the Winsidr Award is? It's just...
sorry. The Winsidr Award is like, there's the MVP award, right? And that goes out to the best play, like, a collective, whatever. The Winsidr Award, it's slightly similar to the Winsidr Coach of the Month, slightly similar to the Winsidr Coach of the Player of the Month. It's our way of nodding and not necessarily just saying, oh, Aces won, it's Asia Wilson. Oh, you know, I mean, giving out an award that's less politicized and just going out there for a player that, for us as an outlet, we thought was having an amazing season. There'll be a whole write-up and a lot more details and thought and everything like that. If Steph Dolson wins the Winsidr Award, let's just say there'll be a whole new Winsidr team next year. That would be hilarious. That would be the ultimate troll by then.
I already know who I'm voting for the Winsidr Award.
Cool.
I don't even know the parameters, but I know who I'm voting for.
There you go. Rachel, I know you didn't see it, but listeners, if you didn't see it, in the exit interviews with Diana Taurasi for this WNBA season came a glorious, glorious moment where somebody asked Diana Taurasi, would you be willing to play with Skylar Diggins-Smith next year? And her, without batting an eyelash, response was, next question. So I think you can think that on your own. It was glorious too, because like,
can someone send it to me on Twitter? Like, is there
someone do it? It was just glorious because everybody knows they almost like threw fisticuffs on a sideline in the middle of a game. And Tina Charles was like, I'm out of here. And then just went and ruined another franchise. No, I'm joking. I just can't not see that meme of Tina Charles's death going door to door. Well, it's come that time of the day, Rachel. We're not going to ask the GOAT question, but I'm going to ask that we make our predictions for round 1 of the WNBA playoffs.
Hold on.
Wings. Sorry, what?
Let people know who won Pick'em this year?
Oh, God damn it. You're really going to make me do this. Rachel won Pick'em, okay? She literally on the Sparks Storm game. Okay. Sparks Storm. I picked Storm for some reason. I mean, look, in my defense, I want this public. In my defense. Oh, yeah, the Sparks won. Damn it. I got really excited for a second. In my defense, I made a comeback. I made a 3-game comeback on the last day. And if I would have just gone with my gut to pick against Minnesota, we would have ended the season as a tie. Rachel wins. I owe her something. We'll figure that out later.
It's fine. I don't need anything.
Yeah, that's
I'm like 5-0. It's fine.
Of
course you do. You don't know shit.
Right now. Wait, hasn't Barkov said that about both of us? I feel like, come on. Whatever. I'm fine being on the opposite of Barkov's side of history because I don't spend thousands of dollars on pajamas. Let's go. Who you got winning, Wings or Dream?
Wings in 3.
I got Wings in 2. I got a sweep going. Mystics versus New York. Who do you got?
New York in 2.
Mystics in 3. This is my gamble. This is my one gamble. I said early on in the year, I made many predictions. So far, the only prediction that has come not true is the Lynx being in the lottery this year. I'm going Mystics in 3 because I think it's a great setup. Obviously relies heavily on a healthy Mystics team, which I'm just going to put out my caveat that somebody's probably going to get injured and then they're going to lose. But if they can stay healthy, they win it. Aces Sky. I'm going Aces in 2. What about you?
Yeah, Aces in 2.
Sun, Lynx. I'm going Sun in 2 with a sweep, but I wouldn't be shocked to see Minnesota pull off game 2.
Sun in 3.
Sun in 3. Okay, which game do you think Minnesota wins?
Game 2.
Yeah, I'm with it.
Me and Mitchell.
I said it a moment ago. I hate you.
No, it's me and Mitchell, not you. You're out. Me and Mitchell.
I'm looking at you also. When you do this, I see it too. Well, I just want to thank everybody for joining us. I hope you enjoyed listening to us ramble and watching how it looks behind the scenes normally. But if you are here, I hope that doesn't mean that you won't listen to the episode on your podcast platform because that hurts us. So make sure you still let the audio play, even if the volume's down, even if you turn it on 3 times speed. We want the views. We appreciate you. Stay tuned for Winsidr all over social media. We got some really cool stuff coming. We'll have series previews for all the series. We'll have deep player profiles throughout the playoffs. We'll be doing some spaces, maybe a specialty film room, maybe some specialty podcasts. You'll just have to wait and see. And definitely join the Winsidr bracket, and you can win some cool stuff that teams gave us for free to vote for them. Because that's how it goes. Have a good one, y'all. Appreciate you.
Bye, guys. Everyone have a good night.